So yeah, I'm Joe. I create a software called NES Maker, which is what you're seeing on this screen right here. This is a software that allows you to create real cartridge-based hardware playable games for the NES. Even if you don't...
Lost and found is up at the registration booth in the main lobby. If you completely lost it there, that's a very close to check. Thank you.
We can put it in the outtakes.
There we go. Okay, so even if you have limited programming knowledge or whatever, it's really a sort of GUI-based, sort of WYSIWYG style drag and drop game creation tool comparable to like a Game Maker or a Unity or Instructor or Godot, but specifically tailored to making NES games. It includes pixel editors and how to input your sound, and it comes with a bunch of stock modules. So if you wanted to make different genres of games, it comes with the basic skeleton to make that kind of game. And you can get started without even looking at the code. So that's this here. That's what NES Maker is. Usually we're here and we're recruiting new people and getting more people. So today we're showing off the games that the community has made. We're showing off. We have a development competition that's going on called the Bite Off. We do it every year. There's 40 new NES demos that people have made that we're showing here. My controller just died, so I'm charging it. But that's what's on this screen. Plus our Retroverse app, which is it's a browser-based place where you can go to play new NES games. They're all competing. The competition is at the end of this month. There's a bunch of categories for like best art, best narrative, all that stuff. And then over here, we've got more finished games on cartridge. And most of these started as bite-off games in the years past, and they've gone ahead and made full games out of it. And then here in the center, what you're looking at this is our flagship called Mystic Searches. Mystic Searches is the game that sort of started the project. When I was a little kid, I made, 8 years old, 1988, I made a game on paper called Mystic Searches, and I sent it to Nintendo Power. And I said, please send me the stuff I need to make my game. And I got it back with a little form letter, and it said, stay in school, don't do drugs, and Nintendo America cannot take unsolicited game ideas. And that ended up in the shed, and heartbroken, whatever, 30 years later when I found it, like, hey, I can make a game. So I started making Mystic Searches, and through that started building tools in order to help me make Mystic Searches, and those tools became popular, and that became NES Maker, which now we have 10,000 active users making NES games with that software. Meanwhile, we are still finishing Mystic Searches. We got to the point where we had made all these great tools, and we were pretty much getting close to what we considered done with the game, and we were like, wow, imagine if we could have had these tools when we started. So we stopped where we were, and we made a prequel quest out of that. And then we started over with our tools, and we've been working on it ever since. That's Mystic Searches. Today, we are actually showing this scene. This is a piece of concept art. We had to try and recreate this in 8-bit. So for the first time, we're letting people try to battle Smew, this dragon boss. He's about halfway through the game. It's much more fun because it's a story-based. There's a lot of story in the game. It's hard to jump in at a convention, right? You start reading a lot, and you're like, so let's do something action-based. So we actually have Smew. If you press the start button, you can actually play against Smew. And if you beat him, you will be the first person in the history of the universe to beat him, because today is the first day we're showing. So we had 2 people come very close, but not quite. Anyway, that's the story of what's going on here.
Awesome, thank you.
There's a lot, I know.
Hey, FeralInferno. We're at the Retro Game Con in Syracuse, New York. 2022, in true FeralInferno fashion, we have gotten separated from our friends. So, what better time to talk to you guys, my YouTube friends? So, we got a few pickups so far. Let's take a look and see what we got. So, first up, we got a bunch of Perler stuff. And I've never bought any of this stuff before, but hey, now's a good time. Seeing is believing. It looks a lot better in person. But we got a Mario mushroom keychain here. So, really cool. I love the old school Super Mario mushrooms. Really fantastic. What else we got? The first thing I saw, I was like, I gotta buy it. Like no questions asked, I'm buying it. It's happening. I found some Final Fantasy IV sprites. So we've got Cecil here. Cecil looks really great. I saw this, I was like, all right, Cecil, I gotta have Cecil. I gotta have it. And of course, you know, we've gotta have his buddy, Kane the Dragoon, the most famous Dragoon of all time, the guy who started it all. Kane, gotta have Kane. So we got Kane, and I went back to the same booth and I found some other ones I didn't see before because I was so enamored by the Final Fantasy IV Perlers. I found these really big ones of Chrono from Chrono Trigger, another great 16-bit RPG. Really great job. They did a really good job with all the detail on Chrono. And we have to have one of his companions, somebody who we actually saw here at Retro Game Con as well. We've got Frog, or otherwise known as Glenn, from Chrono Trigger. Really nice. You know, it's got the whole full Massa Moon. I had to have it. And we got one other thing that's pretty special. This might be the pickup of the show. I had this artwork as a kid. It was on the Nintendo school supplies. There was folders and spiral notebooks, and I scoured eBay for years looking for this, and finally found it. eBay's everything's either been like totally destroyed or just extremely high prices. Like I'm not gonna pay like $500 for an old school folder just for some cool artwork. But I found a replica here, and it's just perfect. It's in canvas format, and it is Nintendo Power. We got old school 80s Link, 80s Mario here, and just take a look at this. This is really fantastic. I saw this and I was like, I gotta have it. Asked him how much it was. I think it was $30. Not bad. He had a lot of really cool canvas and pins and magnets and things. Saw some cool Legend of Zelda magnets. I was just talking to him and got his card. And then I just out of the corner of my eye, I saw the baby blue. I saw Mario and Link and the Nintendo Power logo. And I was like, how much is that? I need it now. Probably shouldn't have been so enthusiastic. Maybe drove up the price. That's what I would have done anyway. As a smart salesperson, right? But yeah, really loving this. This is fantastic. But yeah, let's go ahead and get down with the show, and maybe we'll find some other goodies along the way. Let's take a look.
Hey, FeralInferno back, and we're down in the game room. We just returned from the Retro Game Con out in Syracuse, New York. It was a lot of fun, a lot of cool things to see. It was really nice to see all the different vendors and the events going on, the arcade and pinballs, and especially all the cosplayers. Really cool stuff. We showed you a few things of what we picked up while we were at the Retro Game Con. But I did pick up 3 more things, and I want to show them to you before we finish off our 2022 tour of the Retro Game Con. The first thing is something I actually got for free. It is a Nintendo Switch officially licensed activity book. I figured this would be something really nice, maybe for my nephew or a giveaway or something. But this really nice thing, it's free. They had a bunch of them out there. And like it has this little word searches and advertisements for the games, of course. Connect the dots, stuff for kids. So I thought this was really nice. Mario Kart maze. So yeah, maybe my nephew or someone out there in YouTube world might like that. So wanted to pick that up. And we also picked up another little fun thing to continue the perler bead theme here, because it's the first time I've really gotten into this stuff. We got a potted piranha plant from Super Mario Brothers 3. There was 2 to choose from. There was one that that has the tilted head that spits out the fireballs, or the one that just goes straight up. I thought this one was nicer, but they were both pretty cool. There was another one where it had the vine coming up from Mario 1, and Mario's climbing up it. And that was pretty neat too. But I went with this one. I'm not sure if this will be down here in the game room, or maybe I'll bring this to work and be one of my office plants or something. But yeah, I thought this was really neat, and I waited till the end of the show. I did see it earlier on. There a few vendors had something similar to this, but this was the best one. See, we got the little moss in there. In the pot, but I wanted to pick it up at the very end because I didn't really want to carry this around. It's because it's a little bit more cumbersome to carry around. So I said, hey, let me come back and pick that up. With that said, sometimes though you do need to pick up what you want when you see it. I say that because when I first came in, I did see a Final Fantasy IV, 5, and 6 Super Famicom games from Japan, and they were in pretty decent shape. And the Final Fantasy VI was a little bit pricey. I think 5 might have been pricey too, but I know 6 was pricey. Wasn't really interested in 5. The 6 box wasn't in the greatest of shape, but it was $50. So I was like, I don't really want to do that for $50. But the Final Fantasy IV box was in pretty good shape. The manual was in good shape, and the cartridge looked okay. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll come back. I want to just look around first, because I think it was the very first table that I visited. And in my head, I was like, it's going to be gone. You've got to pick it up now. I was like, let me check around. It's $30. I only got so much money to play with right now. I was trying to keep it under $100. But I did pick up another Super Famicom game, and a lot cheaper. It was only $6.99. And it is Yu Yu Hakusho from... who made this? Namco, or Namcot in Japan. Never really realized why they had the T in Japanese for a little bit. Namco, that is, in Japan. But yeah, Namco made this for the Super Famicom. I love Yu Yu Hakusho. It's one of the animes I have really adored over the years. And it's kind of cool to have this here in the collection. It's got some, the classic anime artwork as well on there. So I was happy to pick this up. Only $6.99. Funny story about it though. The vendor that was there, it was really nice at first. We were talking about Mega Man, because he had a Mega Man: The Wily Wars for Sega Genesis, and it was a recent thing that was done by, I think, Retrobit. And it was a special edition, all this cool stuff. It was too much money for me. I think it was $110. But it was still really cool, and he was telling me all about it. And how he played it on the Sega channel back in the day. And I was like, oh well, yeah, let me still look around at your stuff. And I found this, and he actually had 3 different Yu Yu Hakusho games for the Super Famicom. And I considered hey, all 3 of them, but I was like, I only need one. I only have so much room down here in the game room. And you'll see in a tour that we're going to do sometime in the future that we're getting towards capacity where I don't want things to feel too cramped. I do like having things spaced out nicely. And he's like, well, I've got all 3 Yu Yu Hakusho games there for Super Famicom. And I was like, yeah, I saw that. He's like, oh, you should get all 3. And I was like, nah, I'm cool with the 1. I was cool about it, and he seemed okay. But then all of a sudden he was like, fine, $6.99. I was like, oh, okay. So he seemed really upset about it, annoyed. So I don't know, it was really weird. But no, he still seemed like a cool guy. But I thought it was kind of a funny story. I was just like, hey, we had this really great conversation. Then all of a sudden, like, yeah, not so happy because I didn't buy all 3. Hey, if you want to sell it in a bundle, sell it in a bundle. Maybe I would have bought all 3. Who knows? Or I may at least cut me a deal. There was a few situations like that. I saw one of the games I was looking for was Mario 64, and there was another vendor, and a lot of the vendors that had some of these games were way overpriced. And there was one vendor that had Mario 64 for $50, and another one had it for $70. And I was just like, that's too much. And then one vendor had it for $30. And I know based on price charting, it only goes for about like $25. So I was like, hey, there was some little stuff on it. I was like, hey, do you know if the stuff will come off? I was like, oh, yeah, it'll come off. And I was like, it'll come off real easy. I'm like, well, if it comes off that easy, why don't you do it right now in front of me? But that didn't happen. So I was like, whatever. I'm not going to pay more for something that might be damaged. And I was like, hey, would you do 25? I wasn't trying to be a jerk or anything. And he was just like, no. I already marked it down from 50 down to 30. No. He literally took it out of my hands and walked away. And I was like, what? So, I don't know. Some weird stuff that happened, but it was still a fun time. I still enjoyed it. Hey, so I really hope that you enjoyed everything that we showed you from the 2022 Retro Game Con. I had a blast. Everything there was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hopefully going again next year. Thanks to everybody for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.